And to begin our session, I would like to introduce the CEO of the Capitals Coalition, Mark Gough, to share more about the Capitals Coalition and the work they are doing to redefine value, to transform decision-making through global collaboration. Please join me in welcoming Mark.
Thank you, Robin. I've done a lot of speeches this week, sorry. For me, all of those conversations I'm having in the halls are great because we're doing things, but this is the one I've really been looking forward to all week, actually. For me, it's about trying to make sure we're connecting really with what's going on. Those conversations we're having in there are very high level at the COP, that we're talking about changing words around, we're moving things around, but actually it's about how we really connect this. And as Robin was just saying there in the recognition that we're on Indigenous lands, it's about the value that we connect with. And what we're trying to do with Capitals is really understand that value in a better way. How do we understand the values that we have in life? How do we put those into the conversations we have? There's a joke that a friend of mine, Pavan Sukev, you may know, often says, and I've started using myself, but I have to give him some credit, is that I'm a proper capitalist, okay? I don't just have one capital, financial capital, I've got four. I've got four capitals with me. I've got natural capital, I've got social capital, I've got human capital, and I've got the produced capital as well. So actually, that connected up story of that is really where we need to be going now with this. We can't just continue looking through a lens of just finance. We have to start thinking about how nature and people interconnect. So who knows the story of the Capitals Coalition, about where it started? Does anyone here? David knows, doesn't he? I've known you too long, David. So, okay, it started in a bar, because that's where all good ideas start, isn't it? Yeah? You know as well, Jameson, don't you? Good. We were in Rio Plus 20. And I know this because I was there, and there's all of these different organizations. There's about 40 different approaches to how to value nature, okay, that were out there. I know there were 40 because I read 39. I didn't think they were any good, and I wrote the 40th one. I realized that might have been a bit of a problem, that maybe we didn't need a 40th one. Maybe what we needed to do was to bring them together. So over quite a lot of tequila, which is an interesting topic, because if you've heard in the conversations this week in the hall, Mexico, in order to unblock some of the difficult conversations that were going on in there, offered anyone that would take brackets out a bottle of tequila. So there's been quite a lot of talk about that. So in that first conversation at Rio Plus 20, what we did was we talked about the fact that we were fighting over my methodology is better than your methodology. That's ridiculous, because we were all stopping doing what we should be doing, which is making change. So we decided to all get together and collaborate on that, and that really has been the core of what the coalition's about. There's lots of organizations that talk about doing collaboration. Most organizations in this space do, but there's good collaboration and there's bad collaboration. Good collaboration really needs leadership. It needs people to step forward. It really needs us to break bread with each other, to spend some time with each other. You can't do it by just putting out documents. You can't do it by having members. You have to have colleagues and friends. It's got to be a community, and that's very much how we've gone about the hubs. We've got 16 hubs around the world now. This isn't something that we're going in and imposing on people. What we're doing is we're really trying to build that up, bottom up. So, for example, in Australia, one of the first to form, we had, I think in 1 week, I had about 20 calls from colleagues in Australia, all asking me, how can we do this? How can we do this? And in the end, I said, why don't you all talk together? Why don't you all sit down together and try and work that out in an Australian context? I've been talking to David here for about 10 years. We've been having conversations. I was just talking to a colleague. We had a call with TAC about 3 years ago where we were talking about industry in Canada. But it's really got to come from you, the energy here. We can help, but we don't want to be imposing from where we are spread around in the Netherlands and various other places where we're based. It's got to be a Canadian base. We've got 16 at the moment, and that would be, someone's going to be a better mathematician than me, about 8% of the world's countries. Am I anywhere near right? Where's the accountant? Robin? Is that close enough? Close enough, okay. So we've got about 8%. We need to increase that over the next few years. So the strategy of the coalition, we're trying to do three things, okay? First of all, change the math. First thing is we've got to work out how to do this. Which tools do we need? What resources do we need? Which frameworks do we set up? So that's the first bit. We're getting pretty good at that now. We'll launch the integrated capitals protocol. So looking across nature, people, society, and the economy in January. The first look at that. We'll make sure you get a copy before anyone else does. So we're going to be launching that. That's going to be exciting. It's going to be a beta version, so there's going to be still holes in it where we're going to need your help to keep on building it up. But that's going to be really key. So that integration is really important. So change the math. We're doing quite a lot of things there. This next stage that we're coming into now is change the conversation. That's really where we need to be sitting down, engaging with all different people, understanding what this really means to us, and actually getting it out there, increasing the number of people that apply it. It's no use us in the room all understanding what we want to do. What we need to do is we need to inspire others to do it as well. We need to be a catalyst. We need to inspire others. We need to make sure that we're enabling others, that we can get to a tipping point, which is our sort of shared ambition for the coalition, that actually over half of all businesses, all governments, all financial institutions are using capitals every day in their decisions. It's not something they add on at the end or they think about, oh yes, I'll do capitals as well. They build it in already. It's got to be built in to how they think. We've got lots of examples of how that's working. I'll tell you about a few of those in a moment. But the third part of the strategy then is change the rules. So change the math, change the conversation, change the rules. On changing the rules, we're getting somewhere. Michael, are we getting somewhere? Thumbs up, thumbs down? A bit like that. So Michael's, sorry? Almost there. Michael's from Business for Nature, a body that the Capitals Coalition helped to form a few years ago to try and bring businesses into the conversation with the governments. Because businesses obviously will have a role in that, the same as Indigenous people, the same as everyone else. And businesses have been advocating very strongly in the halls there to be regulated, basically. They're saying, please help us to do a better job. Because the leading companies that have already been doing this know the benefits. And what they want is they want other companies to do it as well. So businesses asking to be regulated, you aware of that ever happening before? It's pretty unusual, isn't it? We're in strange times. So yes, the fact that businesses want mandatory assessment and disclosure of impacts and dependencies, just what we're talking about here with the value, the capitals, that is amazing. That's a great breakthrough. But that conversation's got to change, and that's part of the rules changing. It's not just the rules of governments, it's the rules of accounting, it's the rules of finance. We need to change all of those as well. So that's the sort of pattern that we've got set out. The coalition itself is around 440, I think we are now, or thereabouts, organizations at the center. That changes, that goes up and down, so we tend to say over 400. And then there's about 25,000 people we know around the world that we're talking to on a regular basis that are thinking about this idea of valuation and capitals. You may have heard of lots of different initiatives, like Harvard has got an initiative at the moment, the Impact Weighted Accounts, it was called. It's now called the International Foundation for Valuing Impacts. So there's lots of acronyms out there, aren't there? So, but them, the Value Balancing Alliance, the World Bank stuff, the OECD, all of them, we bring them together every couple of weeks. They've agreed on commonality. So it may sound like there's an alphabet soup out there, but what we need you to do is to understand that and turn that into a language. All alphabet is a language, isn't it? So we turn that into a language that we understand. So we stop confusing people. We clarify what it is that people need to do, okay? You see the word I used there was clarify, not simplify. We're not trying to simplify it down and lose the value in it. We're trying to understand complexity. Humans are very good at understanding complexity. We do it all the time. The mobile phone in my pocket is amazing. I don't know how we made it. So we can understand complexity, but we've got to make sure that other people understand that as well. That complexity has got to be clarified. That's what we need to be doing there. The other things that we're doing, another key projects here, Eliane here, sorry, calling on you in the front row. The Eliane here is the co-chair of the, also on the board of the Capitals Coalition. It is the co-chair of a new project we're setting up at the moment called the Value Commission. So when we went out and we did our annual survey, and we'll be doing another one soon, so I hope you'll all take part, we asked all of the 25,000 around the world that we're engaging with, what is the number one issue that you think we need to unblock that will help us to achieve our ambition? 66% of them came back, and I just need to clarify, 82% of statistics are made up, including that one I just made up then. But 66% of the people that answered the survey, they said that actually the number one issue was these value factors. Okay, so a value factor, so if I said 1 trillion trees, does that sound like a good thing to do? You're going to plant 1 trillion trees. Is that good? Come on, someone help me here. Good question. Where am I going to plant them? What else?
What kind of trees?
What kind of trees? Yeah.
Where?
Who's going to value, who's going to benefit from these trees? Those sort of questions are what we're doing here in this room today. We're trying to add the context. We're trying to understand things. So there's a lot of people out there that are counting the number of the trees. What we're doing is we're asking questions exactly like that. What are these trees? Where are these trees? What do they mean? That's what we get to from this value factor. So we understand through science, through indigenous rights, through knowledge, through measurement, we understand what that value is. We work out what that value is, and then we times the 1,000 million trillion trees by that factor to say, well, the impact is this. The impact on the world, the impact on my business, the impact on the government is this. That value factor in the middle, if you went tomorrow to one of the big four, that we're in EY today, I know we've got Deloitte here as well, KPMG, PwC, Grant Thornton, all the others. They've all got their own factors. They've worked very hard on developing them, and we're working with all of them. You could go to S&P, you could go to the World Bank, you could go to the German government, you could go to the Dutch government, you could go to the Social Value International, the Ecosystem Services Valuation Database. There's all these places to get all of those coefficients, those value factors. That's great, but actually if you went to S&P one day, you'd get 1.5, PwC might give you 1.6, KPMG 1.56, and actually why is that? There isn't any rules around how those are being created, because everyone is saying, I think this bit's the most important, and they're probably right from their perspective, but we need the transparency to understand why that is. So the Value Commission is bringing together those experts around the world that have been working on this, creating them, collating them, using them, regulating them. We're bringing all of those people together in order to be able to set those global criteria for what those value factors should be, how they're created, how they're used. If we can do that, then we can have consistency. And then if you saw a report from any business in the world and they said they'd created 1 trillion trees, you would have those factors in a consistent way to say, what does that mean? In that area, where they are, the projects they've done, what does that really mean? What's the impact? What's the dependency on that? So that's going to be a key thing in this next year. We're going to be releasing the integrated protocols, another one. We're also digitalizing a lot of the sustainability data, a new project we've just set up, where we're like XBRL. Anyone know that one? XBRL in financial accounting, you'll obviously know that. XBRL is the way that a lot of the data in financial accounting is tagged so that if you report to the SEC in America or you report to Europe, you can get out the same information. We need to do that for sustainability, for all of these things that we're talking about here. If we can do that, and we've just set up a project to do that as well, that will get the flow of data. The Value Commission will make it useful and relevant. The framework will be the Integrated Capitals Protocol. Then what we need to do is work out, why do we need it here in Canada? What is it that you're going to do? In Spain, they're focusing very much on the energy sector at the moment, trying to transform that. That's what they've been focusing on in the Spanish hub. What's the Canadian hub going to do? Where are you going to focus your efforts? Because we do have to focus. We need 1,000 flowers blooming, I get that, but we also need to focus and seeing change, because we haven't got time just to be coming back here in 10 years' time and having the same conversation. If we do that, I'm going to be very upset with you all, okay? So we do need to make sure that we've actually seen some progress. We need to make sure that we're actually changing some things here. I'd like to close down the Capitals Coalition. We said by 2030. That would be nice. But actually, we've achieved in getting enough momentum that it's going to go. Is any of my staff here? Actually, they're probably worried they're going to get fired now. But the... Sorry? You'll hire them. Oh, great. Perfect. Good. But I think that what we don't want to do is setting up something that we're always going to be coming back and having the same conversation. So if I'm going to leave you with anything, it is that. Let's make sure that we're creating change in what we're doing, positive change, for us as individuals, for us as a community, for us as nations, for us as the world. We need to be doing that together now, rather than actually just sitting in there arguing over whether an and or a comma should be, which is what I've been doing for the last week. We've got to be starting to see the implementation of this and the change. So I'm really excited to be here today. Thank you so much for all coming. I hope that what I've said has been helpful. Do also reach out. We've got hubs around the world. We want to connect them up. We really need your feedback back into these processes. It's not just that we're trying to do things in the Netherlands to try and organize these things. Those projects come out of conversations like this, so help us to do that as well. Thank you very much.